Welcome to Introduction of Scheme. So here we can see what is scheme, how we can use the scheme in our day-to-day life to create our programming. Scheme. Scheme is a functional programming language. It's a direct dialect of a Lisp. Unlike Common Lisp, the other main dialect, Scheme follow a minimalist design philosophy specific a small standard cover with powerful tool for language extension. It's a pure functional programming language. It uses the functional components of Lisp. It is generally used for teaching. It was developed at MIT in 1975 by Sussman and Steele. At the time, it was an improvement over the Lisp language. Scheme uses static copying. Scheme permits two types of objects. One is atom and lists. Atoms can be either numeric atoms or quartet string atoms. Lists are comprised of sequence of atoms and lists separated by blanks and parentheses. Atoms example. If we see for numeric values, we can store any numbers such like 28 or 14.298. For string atoms, you can store any string, that means computer, or you can store A. Okay, let's see numeric atoms and primitive functions. Scheme provides the arithmetic primitive functions for numeric atoms such as addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. Scheme can perform arithmetic on the content of numeric atoms. Such action is invoked by enclosing the data in expression as follows. For example, if you want to get the summation of 2 and 5, what you have to do, you have to give the expression in front of the two atoms. To add two atoms, you have to give like this. You have to give the operator first, then the first atom, again the second atom. So here, let me see the example. In here, I need to get the summation of 2 and 5. So I have to give the plus sign first, then I have to give the first atom, that is 2, and the second atom, that is 5. So in this way only I can get the answer here. Let me see another example with different operator. Just assume I need to get the difference between two atoms. For example, I need to know the difference between 7 and 3. So here I need to minus 3 from 7 to get the difference. To do the subtraction, I have to give the operator first. So I have given the minus sign in front of the atoms. Then followed by the first atom is 7. Then again I am giving my second atom as 3. So my answer should be 4. The primitive functions are general like other programming languages. It is not only limited to 2 parameters. You can add more than 2 parameters. You can subtract more than 2 parameters with the scheme. Let me see that. If you need to add 3 numbers together, something like that, 2 plus 5 plus 3 is equal to 10. In scheme, how do you have to give is first the operator. If you want to get the summation, you have to give the plus sign in front of the atoms. Then you have to give the atoms in order 2, 5, 3. Here you have to separate the operator and atoms by spaces. Anyhow, you have to give the expression within the bracket to execute that as an expression. Okay, let's see now in a different way. If you want to multiply two expressions, not the atoms, here if you want to multiply two expressions such as 3 plus 1 is an expression and 7 minus 2 is another expression. If you want to multiply the both expression together, it is very easy. As like the mathematical form, here also we have separated everything with brackets. So in scheme, first you have to give the common function. So I am going to multiply the two expression. Then I can separate the first atom with the help of bracket. So within the bracket, first brackets, it will be pointed as a first atom. So inside the first atom, I have an expression called addition of 3 plus 1. So here in scheme, everything based on the brackets. So you have to consider the brackets, and we have to keep the brackets very carefully in scheme. If you want to store a single character, you can go with the atom. Otherwise, if you want to store more than one character with a single variable, you have to go with the list. List can contain more than 2 atoms within the one variables. But you have to separate the each atoms inside the list by giving spaces between 2 atoms. Example, here I am storing in the first list my atoms are 2, 5, 7, H, A, 4. Let's look at my second example. So I need to store the atoms 7, 8, 34, 5 and 7. Here I used space to separate the atoms within the list. So space and brackets you have to consider carefully in the lists. Quote function. If you need to store plus sign 2, 5 in a list, if you store like that within brackets plus 2, 5 separated with brackets, it will be function as a expression, an addition expression. It will return 7. So to avoid that expression, we have to use quote function to store the operators within the list. Let's see how. If you give quote function in front of the atom list, it will return as a list, not an expression. So example, if you give quote in front of plus 2, 5, it won't return 7. It will return a list as plus 2, 5. Scheme ignores the distinction between uppercase and lowercase. So if you store a variable pi, the capital and the lowercase pi all are same. It is not a case sensitive language. Okay, in list we have some functions. So let us see the basic functions we can use in list. Usage of car and cdr functions in list. When we look car function, that means car function, this function used to get the first atom of the list. If you use this car function in front of a list, it will return the first atom of the list. We'll see the example. Okay, just assume if you give the CAR function in front of a list having atoms 2, 7, 6, 4, 7, 9, it will return 2. That means the first atom of the list. Let's take another example. If you are giving CAR function in front of a list having A, B, C, D, E as its 5 atoms, it will return A. That means A is the first atom of the list. Let's see some examples of CAR function. If you give CAR function in front of a list having A, B, C, it will return the first atom A as the result. If you give a CAR function in front of a list which is having inside 2 lists, that means the first list having inside 2 lists inside itself, the first variable is A, B, then again the second list is B, C. So it will return the first list of the main list as A, B. Here I am having my CAR function in front of an atom. It will return an error because why? Because A is not a list, it's an atom. If you give CAR function in front of a list having only one variable A, it will return A because even though A is an atom, it is inside a list. If you are having CAR function in front of a null list, it will again return an error because list is null. CDR function usage in list. CDR function will return a list except the first atom of the given list. For example, if you give CDR to 47, 8, 7, it will return except the first atom as 47, 8, 7 in a list. Another example, if you give CDR A, B, E, D, it will return except the first atom in the list, it will return other atoms in order which you have given. Let's see some examples of CDR function. So if you give CDR in front of a list having A, B, C, it will return the B, C. If you give CDR in front of a list which is having inside 2 lists, it will return the second list as B, C. If you give CDR in front of an atom A, it will automatically give you an error. Why? Because A is not a list, it's an atom. If you give CDR in front of a list which is having only one atom A, it will return a null list. Why? Because the given list having only one element. If you give CDR in front of a null list as like CAR, it will return error because list is null. So you can't do the CAR and CDR functions for null list and not list. We'll see define function usage in scheme. Define. This keyword is used to create functions in scheme. Example, if you want to create a function to get the summation of two given numbers, such as below, I am calling the function sum and passing two numbers 5 and 2. It has to return 7 because I need the summation of that two numbers. So let's see how to code for this kind of program. Here is the code for the sum function. So you have to give the define keyword in front of the all to define that as you are going to create a function. Then you have to give the function name. You can give whatever the name as you wish, but without spaces. Next to the function name, you have to pass the parameters. You can have many parameters, more than 2 parameters or more than 1 parameter, how many as you wish. Then you have, so here I am giving my function name as sum and my first parameter as x and my second parameter as y. So inside the function I am coded as usual our operator. I am using the plus operator in front of the variables. Then I given x variable and y variable. So it will be automatically add the given variable together and it will return the summation of the variables. Let's see some more examples for define. Assume that you have to add 3 given numbers and get the result as the summation of those 3 numbers. Like if you are giving the function name as addme and passing the parameters are 2, 5, 4. It has to return 11. Let us see how to code this function. So here you have to give the define keyword to create the function. Next to the define, within a bracket, you have to give the function name and parameters. To separate those things, you have to give spaces. So inside my function, I am giving the code as my operator, that means the plus sign first, then again followed by my 3 parameters. So it will return the summation of 3 numbers, whatever you given. Some more examples for define. You also can create recursive function methods in Scheme using define keywords. Okay, let me take a function that have to add the number until 0 from the given number. For example, if you give the function name and pass a number 3, it has to add the number until 0. If you give 3, it has to add 3, 2, 1, 0. So it has to return 6. So let me see how to create a function code for this. Let's see. So here is my code. I am giving my function name as u0 and my parameter as x. So in first, I am checking with the if condition. In my if condition, I am giving the condition to check whether my x is equal to 0 or not. So within the bracket, I am giving the condition equal x 0. It's going to check whether x is equal to 0 or not. If it is equal to 0, next to the bracket there is another 0 available. That means that is the result will return if the if condition is true. So if the x is equal to 0, it will return 0. otherwise it will go to else part. That means my next line, it has a plus sign, that means my operator. So I am going to add the x and the u0 within bracket minus x1 together with the x. So what I am doing here is, if x is not equal to 0, and I am adding the x with the, again recalling the u0 function by minusing the value which I given earlier. So it will return the recursive function like until x became 0. So it will add all the numbers until the x became 0 and it will return 6. You also can try run this code and you can get the idea on